All right, so we'll move to rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Bollray,
Here.
Mr. Blanton,
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
All right, administrative report.
Good afternoon. I'll keep my report brief. Just quickly, fire department items, fire chief interviews were held. We're in the process of finalizing that. We'll be discussing that later on. Lieutenant Lacey's hearing was held and you gentlemen were all there. Already gathering some documentation based on things that came up in that. So we'll be ready for the next step. Trustee Borath and I participated in the full-time interviews and have a recommendation for firefighter Ben Bosberg to be promoted to full-time. That's on your agenda for later. Saltwater fill station. I met with Syntec representative, that's the folks that Tim and Dan met at the Ohio Township Association. They typically provide a billing system and tracking system for usage. I talked with them about their system. They're also checking with a couple of their vendors to see if they can provide the whole package for us. So in the meantime, that's not holding us up because Alec Ewing is working with the new solicitor from the Village of Plains to finalize an agreement for the use of the old location. So I'm hoping to have that done and started on by the next meeting.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It seems like we should be able to get it finalized, get it signed, or at least signed by Cleves and then approved by us in the meeting so we can move forward.
I'm hoping that we can do that at the next meeting.
Okay.
So by that time, we'll finalize what we're gonna put there. So you can approve that as well. And get it going.
Okay. Yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
And then we gotta start working on the water line, so.
Yeah, that'll be the next big project. So, Whispering Farms, Ross Brown and Todd got the bid packet back to me with some revisions. I'm gonna go through those. You agreed that I could post that when it was complete, and I hope they have that posted next Monday.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's what we're here for.
I thought that was already put out. I'm wrong about that?
We were waiting for Ross Brown and Todd to give us the final review.
I thought we put it out, you said the deadline was March 15th. I read that email, wasn't it?
That was my proposal. I did not expect it to take this long for them to get back to me. They had it before our last meeting. So,
We gotta get that going.
yeah,
How long have they had it?
3 weeks.
It's too long. That's crazy. They should be able to get that back to us in a week. Because you had everything done on it. I looked through it and it was thick, but there's no reason they can't review it and approve it for us before 3 weeks.
I thought it was fairly complete when I sent it home.
You thought it was what?
I thought it was fairly complete when I sent it home.
Yeah. So,
I haven't looked at their changes. Before we say anything to them, let me see if they had to make major changes or not. And I'll let the three of you know individually between now and
well,
then.
let's do a phone conference tomorrow morning, me, you and Alex, and so we know where we're at. If you call me and I'm not available, just go through with it and then call me back and update, but I should be available.
All right.
Go ahead, Jim.
Maintenance department, Tim Porter, who's been an employee here for a long time, has come to the point where he has agreed to take his accumulated time with us, as paid time off. And at the end of that time, he'll be leaving us. So with that in mind, Ronnie Miller had an applicant from the pool people that he interviewed last time that was a very close second to the person he hired. So he asked if we could draw from that pool and check with that gentleman. He's available to come to work for us, so you have that, later on,
So that would replace the vehicle.
he'll be backfilling Tim Porter's position. So his name is Damon Walton, and, like, Bob said, he wished he could have hired him back then.
Are we gonna bring that up during the business? Or are we
Yeah.
gonna deal with it?
So, and a few of the meetings that I've been to, Western Hampton County Economic Council, obviously the fire chief candidate interviews. I've met with Alex twice, finance committee, and, Kim Day and I just met yesterday with our health insurance, provider, Nest. And, we're gonna have our employees, actually, everyone will have to fill out a form online. I'm sure you've done that at schools. They will be looking, with that information that we get from that, they will be able to go out and source other avenues for us, so we can make sure that we're getting the best coverage for our employees at the best price for the township. So we're gonna start that process. The window for form hire is 90 days, so we're gonna start that in June and try to get everybody on board with that. We're also gonna have them come out as we're doing this and explain the benefits to our employees. We'll just have an all-employee lunch. And they'll be our keynote speaker and explain the benefits to them and why they need to do form hire, so that we can try to get them better benefits. And that's pretty much what I have.
All right, you wanna go to old business, hydrant thing? Jim, do you wanna talk about that?
I can, as you know, apparently before I even got here, Mr. Reininger had asked Jason Peters for a price to paint fire hydrants for us. And then in ensuing, because it was never really brought up in a meeting, we went out to sort some more pricing. We had two people who were very close to the price. We asked for an alternate bid for Mr. Hughes based on us providing the paint. He meant to provide that to me and sent it to the wrong email. He sent it to Miami Township instead of Miami Township. That caused some of the confusion that we dealt with him, putting a dozen or so emails, a meeting in person, and an actual public records request from him. So now that we have that straightened up, the pricing came out, if we go with $10 per hydrant for the paint, he deducted. The second bid would be $1 more per hydrant than his. So I guess what we need to do is decide, one, if $1 difference is reason enough to give him the bid, because he didn't know the pricing on the other proposals before he gave us that deduction. And do we need to honor Mr. Reininger's request to him without the rest of the board knowing about it? So, up to you, gentlemen, what you'd like to do.
But this would be just 200 a year.
Well,
That was
the
with
1,000 hydrants that they originally started with was included the villages. So we have about 750. So if we did 150 a year, we would be back on that 5-year span. And,
If we did 250, it would be 250, 250, 250, right?
yeah, so then we would be on 3 years and they wouldn't be
We're
paying.
behind now, right?
So
Keep down 5 years.
We were on a 5-year program before, and I don't know, no one has been able to tell me where we're at on that 5 year.
It's been,
we've been shooting brief this, and I want to tell you about this while we're on the record. So we were trying, when we sat in on trying to think what seminar was from UTA. So I like to see if there's a motion, and if there's we can make a motion. I'm not telling anyone we do it. Make a motion. If we get a second, then we can discuss it. If we don't get a second, then there's no reason to discuss it. We can move forward with our meeting. So with that being said, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and only do 250 hydrants at the $75 per hydrant for Mr. Hughes.
that was how many? 150?
250.
I'm sorry.
I'll second it.
For one year. I mean.
Yeah,
looking at
just
the
for 1 year,
Right.
250 for 1 year. All right, now since you second,
I'll
all right, so now we'll open it up for discussion. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
but, okay. So for me, this is about the process, and this is really, that's what this is about. So I asked, for copies of the, minutes for the last couple of months. And again, for trustee, Boras benefit, I know you were attending some meetings there, at the end of last year, but, just so you're aware, a big part of, I had several reasons that I was pushing for us to hire a full-time administrator. One of those reasons was for instances like this, so that everything is run through the administrator, it's not run through any individual trustee. As you're aware, no individual trustee really has any authority whatsoever to do much of anything unless the board as a whole designates, that authority. So whatever commitments or things that were made by retired trustee Reniger was done where there really wasn't any authority because it wasn't even, at least two members of the board giving that directive. We had this board, and I believe it was December 15th, which was a special meeting that was called. And, most of the time, special meetings are for time-sensitive things and everything. So this was brought up with the assistance, and it was insisted that trustee Reniger said that this had to be on the agenda of the December 15th meeting. There's nothing time-sensitive about this in nature. This wouldn't be done, as everyone admitted, acknowledged, until probably May, June, whatever. So this board, a majority of this board, specifically the two of us, made the decision to table it and gave directives to our administrator to put this out for bid. I asked Mr. Brennan, and again, this isn't about any individuals, this is about process. I asked Mr. Brett, what other communication he's had, if any, from the other individuals that submitted proposals. There's been none since back when they originally did them. I said, well, how many with Mr. Hughes? And he said, probably about a dozen emails, a meeting or two in person, conversation, or a phone call or two, that, and then a couple of public records requests. So you have all that submitted. No one else has had any contact, any communication of any sort, except for one individual. It doesn't matter who that individual is, it's one individual. And then after all of that, there is an adjustment and edits made, and the new proposal comes in $1 less, lower than the previous bid. Now, I think any rational individual that says that if you have the process that just played out, and after multiple points of contact and conversations and meetings and phone calls and emails and everything else, you come in $1 below after you're aware of the other bids. We've been doing things, in my opinion, not right for a while. And we have the ability right now to start doing things the right way and having it all run through the administrator. And so that this board can give him directive and say, this is what we want for future, future proposals. These are the specs we want. We want this kind of paint. We want, wire brush. We want sandblasting. We want whatever the situation is, and then put it out and let everybody, it's a level playing field. Everybody has the opportunity to bid on that. This has been extreme, this process, there's been so many individuals trying to insert themselves on this process that it is extremely tainted. And we have not we've not approved anything. We've not expended any money on this. There's nothing that has been done yet. So we have the ability right now to start doing it the right way right now. or we can do it the wrong way one more time before we start doing it the right way. And I would implore, I would highly encourage this board, now that we're finally on the same page of how these processes should be in the future, why wouldn't we start it right now? And because if I don't even know whoever the person is that's $1 higher, but if I'm that individual, whoever that is, and I see this play out, I'm gonna be asking for a meeting tomorrow and say, are you kidding me? One of my competitors gets to see all the bids, gets to see all the numbers, knows exactly what the situation is, meets multiple times with everyone, and then comes in $1 lower, and then this board approves that. We have not, if we go back to what we asked, so really, if we don't undo what we already did and just say the board already gave Mr. Brett the directive that in the spring to put this out, and if he re-puts it out, like what the board already decided, then we've not hurt any of those individuals. We've not done anything to hurt their chance at getting the bid. They could still reapply. He would put out the specs and say, this is the expectation. And then if Mr. Hughes or any of the other individuals are the best and the lowest, then this board can make that decision, award the bid, already put in there, because we're literally discussing right now 150, 250. I don't know. I mean, how are we doing that at this 11th and a half hour of the junction? We'll let him put out the bid, say this is for 150, this is for 250, this is for 200, this is whatever, paint's included, paint's not included. And again, this isn't so much about this. It's an example of how are we going to operate going forward. This is about the process. And so I really think that we have an opportunity to do the right thing right now for this and going forward. And I don't know why we would do it the wrong way one more time before starting, when we're not done it.
Brent has to go set the timer. So
Well, this is important, not about
It is.
this, but it's how we're gonna deal with it.
this is your opinion as a trustee, and you're making accusations that are not true, that we haven't been doing things the right way.
Like I said,
And we've only been here in 2 years, yeah, and that's your opinion, and I totally disagree with that, 100%. So what I'm saying is we move forward with this because of the emails. One, trustee Winder was involved in it. He asked for bids and only got one back at the get-go. And then we did get 2 more later on, and there was a holdup with Mr. Brett getting an email from Jason Hughes that had the wrong email address, and he just talked about that into the record. So my thinking is, so you got kind of 250 times 75, 1,800.
So can I ask, so
18,750.
Okay, 18,000, how much?
750.
All right. So my recommendation would be to move forward with this, and then how many did we have? 3 vendors or 4? 4 vendors?
Yeah.
We could go in this route, 1 vendor, a different vendor every year till we get to our maximum of 750 fire hydrants.
Yes.
So we could divide that, instead of 250, can you do 250 divided by 4? And then it's even for every.
6250.
How much is it?
62.5.
750 divided by 4, right? Yeah, because we got 4 vendors, right? We got 750 fire
can I just interject? I don't mean, well, if you're finished, but if you want to say anything more, but I do have just I believe that the price quotes were vastly different.
Two of the vendors were quoting just
I don't think they
sandblasting.
were.
They quoted just sandblasting and they were much higher. Two of the vendors quoted doing the work by hand.
And that's where this is not apples to apples. This is drastically apples to oranges. I mean, completely. And we would be spending taxpayers' dollars, a lot more taxpayers' dollars, and maybe not even, we don't even know what their actual bid would be if it's exactly what, consistent with what.
We would have to go out to bid.
And
Is Jason's, Mr. Hughes, sandblasting?
No.
Okay, so it's lower.
It's a hand,
and that's where it's
just
just.
that lowest bid with a hand.
So when, if we divide it, we all have the same parameters that Mr. Hughes has. We make that requirement for the other three vendors and do a different vendor every year. And my suggestion is, and then we see who did the best job, who we can go with them in the future. And I don't see anything why that's not fair. If we divide it up and have the same, no sandblasting, and whatever paint they use, have them all use the same thing, use 4 different companies. I don't see one thing wrong with that.
Okay, that's fine, but we don't even know what their number would be because their number was based on sandblasting.
And I realize that.
So they could say, my number is 100, my number is 120, my
We're
number
only
is.
talking this year. Oh, we still have to grant it
But
each year.
Well, but you're saying, let's already basically grant it each.
No, I'm not saying.
Well, you said every,
That's a plan. We don't have to grant it. Obviously, if they're gonna come in $20 or $30 more a hydrant, we wouldn't grant.
You're saying at the same
but
cost.
then we're not committing.
We're talking about 2024. That's all we're trying to do.
Well, you're talking about the next 3 or 4 years. So I don't understand how we would, I mean, Cindy, you were starting to say that we would have to.
Well, those, if the other 3, 4 or whatever, are they coming in at the same $75 a hydrant?
Well, they might say, I'm not, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise I would have bid it.
Why would we pay $95 a hydrant?
Well, we could offer them at that.
Right, I say that's what I was just trying to see what.
We could offer it at the same price, and then if they neglect it, and then.
I think Tim has something.
I could be wrong, but I thought the fire department's recommendation, when they were talking about the repairs of the fire department or the fire hydrants, was they said they needed to be sandblasted. And that's why that was part of the bid. I'm just.
There was some talk between Mr.
I
Miller
think they
and myself that some of the hydrants may be bad enough that they would have to be sandblasted. And that's how we ended up getting the 4th quotation. Is
But Mr. Hughes is not going there?
no, and because his original quote was to do it by hand. The person that I contacted the person who ended up being the previous contractor. There was some discrepancy about how that contract ended. We went back to some research, found out there was not a contract in writing, so we had no legal exposure there. But he asked if he could provide a price to do the work. That's how we got that 4th bid. So if anything, if you're going to award 250 hydrants now, I would highly recommend that we just go out with
Yeah,
a
we
full
can go
set
out.
of bid specs for the next year.
But why don't we do, so now that we're adding another wrinkle that some may need to be sandblasted, some may not, and now you have a bid of someone that says that they don't do sandblasting. I don't know why we wouldn't just say that these are the specs, let Mr. Brett say, these are the specs. This many needs sandblasting, you know, and confer with the fire department and say, you know, X number for sandblasting, X number not, that paint, no paint, you know, whatever else, and let everybody have the same opportunity to put their best proposal out there, and they would make a decision.
If I may.
Yeah.
What I was discussing before all this became all this, was that if we take out the 150 or 250, whatever the number is gonna be, when the person doing the work gets to those, if you find one that just doing it's not gonna work, we log that Mr. Miller will look at it, and then we will give them the opportunity to say, for X number of dollars, I can sandblast this many. Otherwise, we let them go on, do 250 that don't need sandblasting, and then our next bid, we put those. And hopefully, by that time we have the chief, they have a better, Nick will have a better feel of the hydrant situation. And if they need to be sandblasted, we pay a little extra. Why pay extra for the ones that don't need it?
And I agree.
So, but I would highly recommend
What's the total? Probably just had a total
for $75 per hydrant.
for 750 by my four. What was it?
187.
All right, so Mrs. Borat, you got any comments?
I like where you're going there with the sandblasting. I do think maybe some are not nearly as bad as others. Is that, at that point, when they're identified, is that go back out for bid again, the recommendation?
Or depending on how many there are, that we just ask the contractor doing the work to give us an extra
It
to
should
do
just
that work.
be a small increase. There shouldn't be that many.
Yeah, there shouldn't be that, ideally, there shouldn't be that many. And we already have a contractor on board, and it's a reasonable increase, and we can just approve that. If it's too much, then we just put out the ones that need sandblasted out for sandblasting, depending on the number.
It's 187 divided by 4, so it comes to 750, then we can offer each company, the next 3 companies, if they come in at that price, we can offer it to them, and then if not, we can just put it back out to bid if they don't want to bid it for that. What do you think about that?
It's really not the way it's supposed to operate though, right? I mean, to just, well, we're kind of circumventing
We've
the
got
process
4
that you put,
vendors.
that you put the spec.
We've got 4 vendors and we're giving them all an opportunity. I don't see one thing wrong with that. Nothing.
Then they're gonna
What
fight over who's been doing it next
what
year.
if in a year from now, they're,
Right, they're all gonna fight over who. I
Do
get
they
next
all
year, I
take
get
the
last year.
right,
Well,
what if there's another company that comes in and says, no, I do that, and I don't know why we wouldn't.
we don't have to take another company.
Right, but the goal, or the reason to try to get bids is to have the best and the lowest, so that we're being responsible with our taxpayers' dollars.
I think we're being responsible. We keep saying negative stuff and we're not being responsible. When we've done things correctly in the past, like you insinuated we haven't. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean we didn't do it correctly. That's your opinion.
Well, Mr. Hughes and others have given opinions that we haven't done it correctly, because there's been proposals brought, and if there's not been a consistent process, and that's why before any of this really blew up, I had already talked to Mr. Brett, right when he came on board, about part of the goal for him as the full-time administrator is to have a consistent process. And that's part of one of the gripes and complaints that Mr. Hughes has given, is that there hasn't been a consistent way of dealing with these things. And I actually agree with him on that, and that we need to do it consistently and handle these bid processes and these projects and everything else the same way. And I've shown up multiple times at meetings where either right before the meeting or in the meeting, somebody goes, here, I'm gonna, here's a proposal, and you can glance over it for a few minutes, and in the middle of the meeting, we're gonna ask to vote on it because of whatever. Let's have everything, and it's brought forward by a fellow trustee. Again, one of the many advantages of having an administrator, and again, that's one of the things I was pushing for, is to have it done through him, so that we don't have individual trustees giving directives to, different department heads or whatever else, and pushing things along, that it's all done, it's communicated, we're all aware of it, we can go ahead of time and not be surprised. I don't know what,
All
it
right.
seems like,
Why don't we go?
Regardless of what we do today, I just want you gentlemen to know, and Cindy, that I've already started on getting a written procurement procurement policy in place. Not gonna promise I'll have it by the next meeting, because it depends on how some other things go, but, we will have that in place no later than the April 3rd meeting for you guys to look at. I'll have it to you early. And, then that should put to bed these issues. But
And if we, and that's great, and I appreciate you taking, you know, some ball and running with that. But again, if that's coming, why couldn't we just get that in place and then follow that? And then do it the right way on this, you know, the topic and going forward.
Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it's not the right way.
So you don't think that it's a good thing that Mr. Brett is pulling together this?
I'm fine with that, but we've got a motion that's on the board and we've got a second. We have to vote on it.
Right, and we're discussing, so we can still vote on it, table it, we can do anything we want with the board. And so now I'm hearing that Mr. Brett is working on this policy and, process and formalizing it. I don't know why we wouldn't just follow that.
Cindy,
Wow.
did you ask Mr. Brett, but I didn't hear his answer to your question. Did you ask a question?
Well, my question was to him is, could we go ahead and put it out for bid again? Because this has been going on and there really hasn't been, I mean, I don't know, and I was just questioning that.
they certainly had that right if they choose to.
And that's what I would encourage us to do, just to be fair to every, I mean, again,
We're not-
what
We're
happens if,
not being fair.
well, just like you point out that I have an opinion, but that's your
And I
opinion.
agree. So, all right, we got any more discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I would have known more about what went on last year, prior. I definitely think that there needs to be a procurement policy in place. Moving forward, we've got to figure out.
I'm fine with that also.
And I appreciate that.
And I still got my motion on the floor and I got a second, so I'm moving forward with it.
Did you have anything more, Mr. Trustee Board, or were you still?
I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
Well, the whole piece, would it hurt to put out and read it? I guess would be the question. Yeah.
Can I say something?
Sure, sir.
You guys are forgetting the fact that you are reinventing the wheel. And when I say reinventing the wheel, there was an old way of doing things, which includes Mr. Robeson, because I've sat here for 3 years. There were things that didn't go to bid over in the event center. You guys need to start clean at some point, but there was a process that was used. Jack Whittaker told you about it. And somehow or other, his request needs to be honored. So each one of you in the past, not you, Tim, have gone and you've asked people to get bids. The issue with the administrator, I don't believe was ever resolved when you hired the first one. It went too fast, it was too quick, it was not well thought out. I'm not disagreeing with what Mr. Robeson has to say about going ahead in the future. But I think from this standpoint, there was a bid process that was put in place by Jack Whittaker. That should have been dealt with last year, not this year, but last year.
Yeah.
And you had a personal attack on Jim Brett that you had an apology on because of the fact that I think there was an expectation you guys were going to honor at least some of that bid. For you to go out now and change that, you're asking for a war. And I'm not talking about from me. You're gonna regret the decision. I promise you, you will regret the decision, not from me, but in the community. If you don't just deal with the bid that was on the table last November, not December, last November, December, January, February, here we are in March. I think you need to go ahead and just bid. You do the one that Jason bid on for 250, get it behind you and start fresh. That's just my 2 cents.
Can I, Mr. Brett, or were you going to say, okay. When did you get clarification from Mr. Hughes on the whole, pain, no pain, whatever.
Without going back and looking at my email, I'm gonna say last week.
Okay, so,
Actually, let me read. I believe it came at 5:30 before our meeting last week.
okay.
So I didn't get it before the meeting, because I was already here.
So the discussion of that this was, we had something in front of us in November, or whatever. And that the, I guess, proposal that is in front of us to decide, we got clarity on where things stand and what exactly that proposal was a week ago, right before our meeting. So this has changed multiple times. Again, Mr. Brett said he had about a dozen emails, couple meetings, couple phone calls, couple public records, we press, all that stuff that has occurred over these last several months. And what we have in front of us to decide, we got the clarification on a week ago and to talk about. So, and we still have some sandblasting, some not sandblasting, some paint, some not paint including, and everything else. Again, you weren't here at the beginning, but just this is about the process. This is about the process and whether we're going to do the process right now, moving forward in this instance and going forward, because again, if I'm one of those other bidders or that submitted other proposals, I'm not going to feel comfortable that there's been all this contact over the last several months and that it comes in a dollar.
Like in
When did you
February
get the
27th.
email?
February
No,
27th.
when did you determine that the email was incorrect, that you didn't receive it? That's what I'm going.
I didn't know I didn't receive it until,
It was the day after the meeting, right? Or,
no,
That was back in January.
Yeah.
back in, yeah, it was sometime late January that came to a head with some other folks who said, yeah, he sent you an email. And I said, I don't have it. I looked high and low, I did everything. I called Mike Taylor to see if we could see if that email hit our server. And I was provided a copy of it. And I didn't catch the wrong address until I was reading the information to Mike to see if he could find it on our server. And I read him the date, the time, the sender. And I got to my address and I said, never mind, Mike, I know why I didn't get it, because it went to my account shop. So the date on when I received the information that I asked about, the update was February 25th.
Okay, so that's when we have what is in front of us.
So that was for 75 each, right? So there were 187 for each vendor, that's 70 offered to them at 75 each, and then give them their prerogative to turn it down. We can offer it to Mr. Hughes this year, and then the next vendor that submitted their bid, you can go in date order. And then we can offer it to them the following year, and the next one that came in the third, following year, and the fourth, and so on. So that's my recommendation. Let's get this behind us and be done with it.
Just one last piece. Is there, talk about doing maybe a good faith bid at 250 and then put things back out against the balance?
We could do that.
My recommendation would be if you're, regardless, if you don't award all of them now, let's go by the purchasing procurement policy that we put in place and ask for new quotations for next year. Let's not just go back to the 4 people. Let's open it up to everybody, be fair to everybody.
Do you not want to go forward with the first one? So, 187 or 250? Is that what you're saying?
What if we can do 187 or 2? I think, there was a whole lot of miscommunication.
There was, that's why we need.
So I think
We've been talking about this for almost 40 minutes. It's crazy.
Well, again, this is about how we operate, not just this, but
I get it, and I'm perfectly fine with like either 187 or 250 if they bid.
And then you're talking about
that and then
putting them back out.
put them back out.
By the way, that would allow Mr. Hughes the opportunity to bid on it again. And if he was a low bidder, then
I
we have experience with
why
that.
don't we just do that every year, right?
I think it's not up to the contractor to determine if it needs to be sandblasted. I think that's a township decision. Sure.
Right,
That's what
I
I,
don't know if you have bids that have got bids for sandblasting. I have a little experience with that. What I'm gonna tell you is fire hydrants can be anywhere, subdivisions, you all know that. You sandblast in today's world, price goes up because you gotta recoup the sand. You gotta have protection. You're not gonna go out there and just come up to a hydrant when there's family and kids around. They might have them tented. Okay, so you gotta have more than one man there for safety, so expect your bids to go up when it comes to sandblasting, especially if you gotta recoup the sand environmentally. I did it on pipeline work, and that's where I was at. That's a little different scenario. But I'm just throwing that out there. That could be something.
And that's a great point. And some of our bids, again, included sandblasting, correct?
they were for all same.
Okay, so, and they were higher, so we don't know if they would be higher, lower, or about the same if they didn't include sandblasting, because we didn't put out the specs. So this is again, an extremely flawed process, and I don't know why we wouldn't just put it up. We just, okay, you don't, with some was sandblasting, some was not, some was.
we can't, no, I don't, because we're in a group, you're not gonna know how, which ones are sandblasted and which ones are not.
We asked our fire department.
I think
That's
if we
the
do, I do think if we do the initial good faith bid, that gives us an opportunity to look at these and determine sandblasting versus wire brushing.
If I may, the idea was the fire department and maintenance department would pick a group of hydrants to be done. If the contractor found them and they warranted perhaps sandblasting, they would flag them. Someone would, either Mr. Miller or Nick or the fire department, whoever they choose, would go out and look at it and say, yes, this one needs sandblasted. We would have the option to ask for an add-on for that, depending on how many they have out of their 250 or 187. Or we could just say, all right, we're gonna put those in a bundle and ask for sandblasting bids for these. And if we have enough to bother to do that, then I would ask that an inventory of the entire set of hydrants be done, so we can put out those particular hydrants for a sandblasting bid. That would be my recommendation.
But no one has still answered. If you have bids that included sandblasting, then is that fair to them to say that we awarded a bid that did not include sandblasting when it wasn't made clear to them whether sandblasting, well, it was told to them, give us a bid, would that include sandblasting? If I have to go, you know, if you tell me to run a mile, or you tell me I gotta run a mile, but I gotta hop on 1 foot or foot rails, you know, whatever the situation is, we're not being.
You're absolutely correct. The request for the quotation was not uniform across.
Correct, and that's why I can't, in any situation, whether it's weed fertilizer, whether it's, whatever the situation is, this was, in my opinion, extremely flawed, because we're just saying that is no one knew had clear expectations of what was, what was expected. And I don't know why. I mean, again, if I'm one of those other companies, I'm coming in and saying, are you kidding me? I didn't have the opportunity to put a bid out there that didn't include sandblasting. I didn't know that. I was told it was, that had to be included. So I don't know. Again, we've not done anything. We have the opportunity to fix it and make it right now for everyone. All of those four individuals and anyone else would have the ability to still bid. Just, I don't know.
All right, we got a motion on the floor, so I'll change it from 250 to 187. Is what I'm doing for Mr. Hughes. And then we can put the other, whatever it comes to, out to rebid.
next year.
and move forward. Yes. I'll second.
All right. Mr. Walrick?
Yes.
Mr. Bland?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
I'm going to abstain. And again, this is about the process. This is about the process and doing it correctly. And I wish we would have waited 1 month to get the procurement policy in place and then done it, put it out there.
All right, new business, approval of full-time firefighter Ben Osberg.
Yeah, we interviewed, 3 candidates and our, candidate that we selected there. So I'd like to make a motion to approve that full-time contract for firefighter Ben Osberg.
I'll second. For discussion, any discussion, Mr. Robinson?
No, just, yeah, I think we talked about background checks. This is, have they done that or this is, we're saying pending?
He's current part-time.
Okay, so
employee.
we're-
It'll be pending his physical.
All right. No.
No
Mr.
discussion.
Oh,
Sorry.
Sorry.
No
You good?
discussion. Yeah,
Mr. Walrick?
Yes.
Mr. Bland?
yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
All right, the approval of ice machines purchases for the fire department. I guess there's 2 quotes that are attached in the TQI, I believe, and then a Scotsman. The latest ones we purchased, were they Scotsman?
They were, and there's also, because the Manawak and the Scotsman were 2 different units. I did get a little bit of a late, proposal in on a Manawak that would match the Scotsman, or the storage capacity. And the price on that one would be $5,170.
Okay. Hold on just a second, I'm sorry. So do you want to make the motion on this?
Yeah,
And then we'll try, if there's a
Yeah, make a
second, we'll
motion.
discuss.
to,
If I may, the Scotsman, well, we got an apples and apples.
Well, hang on, let's see if we got a second motion,
Okay.
then we'll discuss.
All right,
And if nobody seconds it, then we're gonna move forward. So Mr. Borat's making a motion that we purchase 1 of the 2 ice machines that are listed on our new business for the fire department.
Well, I appreciate your approach, but I may want to second it or not second it. Just,
Even if you second it, you don't have to vote yes.
I know, but that, we're saying, like, wouldn't we discuss it, but couldn't our administrator give us just a little more detail? And then we can decide whether to second it or motion or
Well,
whatever.
there's no sense for it if we're not gonna go forward.
But what I'm saying is, I agree with your approach as far as,
To see how the board feels, then if the board gets a second, then we can hear from the administrator and then hear from all 3 of us.
what I'm saying is I
And I
appreciate your new
understand what
approach.
you're saying.
But I don't know if, for this instance and going forward, if I would second certain things or not second certain things without just a little more of an explanation from our administrator.
And again, even if you second, it, you don't have to vote yes on it. You can vote no if you don't like the discussion and what that comes out of it. Just because you second it, you don't have to vote yes for it.
So am I seconding one of these proposals or
Yeah.
seconding
No, you-
just making a purchase? I don't understand.
The motion I made is just really, look at purchasing 1 or 2.
Correct.
Okay.
We're gonna
But
discuss.
for who and how much?
Discussion.
Hear from them, and if then we're gonna vote. Because if there's no second, then we're gonna move past it. That's the object of this. To
Well,
keep
Tim-
these meetings moving that we've already been at, and we've accomplished 2 things in almost an hour.
But Dan, I'm just, normally you approve, I have no idea which ice machine you're going with, what company, how much.
We're not yet. He's making a motion that we approve, he's making a motion that we buy 1 of the ice machines listed on the new business. And if we don't have a second, then we're moving forward.
So,
That's the thing. Then we're gonna, if we have a second, we're gonna open for discussion from the administrator, from Mr. Borat, from Mr. Robinson, and myself, Mr. Roberson, and myself.
So we're just changing the process a little bit.
Hold on, what?
We're just changing the process.
Normally, we were supposed to put the company and the price in the minutes, so,
Well, you will,
As
once,
part of the amendment.
once we vote them.
okay, but he just made a motion without that. Right?
He meant no.
Like,
He just moved.
typically, like, we'd say, one of us would say, I make a motion
I
to
know.
approve
I know what we're doing.
X, Y, Z, A, B, C.
He's making a motion that we approve one of the two quotes that we have on the ice machines. If there's not a second for the fifth time, there is no reason to discuss it, and we can move forward.
So they can buy any of the ice machines that are here.
After, no, they can't, after we discuss it, and then we will verify which one we're gonna purchase, and then we will vote on it.
Okay.
Okay.
We just cannot.
Good Lord.
I,
No, I'm
No,
not
that's
saying
fine.
nothing, then I'll run it.
that's fine, I'm just trying to
All right,
make sure we're doing it right.
did you make a motion? And Mr. Borat, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, I will second it. Now we can open for discussion, Mr. Brad.
So, the Manawak with an under the counter unit did not have, so basically the way the ice machines works, I learned a lot about those. Cause I just went next door and talked to Carrie about hers. So you have a storage bin and then you have a storage area above where the ice is made. And then when you take stuff out of the bin, it falls down. So the under the counter units do not have that upper chamber. So that's why the Manawak for $4,793 is cheaper. After I learned that, I guess after came to go back and get a price for a similar unit to the Scotsman. The price on that was $5,170. The Scotsman is $5,345.63. We already have a service contract with the company that sells the Scotsman. So we could add the annual service to that, which includes the cleaning and upkeep of those, which ice machines that aren't maintained are really nasty. So my recommendation would be that we buy the Scotsman at $5,345.
That was my next question of when you're recommending. All right, any discussion from the board? Do you have any questions?
No, I appreciate bringing that explanation. Thanks for doing your homework and looking at it.
All right, I'll make a motion that, to purchase the,
Well, we already made it.
Now
Now you guys are just voting.
Are you gonna do as a manual motion, so
okay.
to read the Scotsman that we're gonna purchase, that's it. And we've got a second.
But
So now we're re-amending, or
No, just amended it so we clarified which one we're gonna
but
purchase.
does he have to make another motion now?
No, he just amended that motion to say which one we're gonna purchase, the Scotsman.
He did.
Well, you,
Technically, Mr. Volrath needs to say I amend my motion to.
That's my motion, purchase the Scotsman, paint machine at $5,300.
thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Blanton,
Yes.
Mr. Volrath,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
All right, new business, the approval of hiring.
So that is a backfill that I mentioned in my, report earlier. Mr. Miller had a fairly good pool of candidates for his last, full-time hire. He, recommends, Mr. Walton for this position, to be at the entry level salary for, service department workers.
But I'll make a motion that we move forward and hire Damon Walton. It's recommended by, Mr. Brett or Mr.
I'll second.
Discussion? Do we need,
Good.
Do you want discussion? Sorry.
trying to follow the new guidelines?
Do you want discussion then, Mr. Borat? I have no discussion. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Go forward.
All right, Mr. Volrath,
Yes.
Mr. Blanton,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
New business discussion of the fire chief's position. Mr. Brett and Mr. Borat.
I'll give you,
I think I somewhat covered that in my report earlier. I was hoping we might be a little further in the process, by this meeting. That's why it's on your agenda, but just to know that, we're moving forward with that and, hope to have someone on board soon.
Any discussion from the board?
I would just appreciate trustee Borat and Mr. Brennan's due diligence.
Yeah, you both did a great job on that. It is appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, resurfacing the tennis courts.
So we spent, and by we, I mean, Megan spent most of the day trying to wrestle up quotations for this project. And I got to talk with the person who gave us the quote last, August, who, was the only one we got an updated quote from for this year. We have 2 more coming. However, he tells me that right now is not the time to do this process. That the only thing he can do is come in and crack fill. And then all the cracks would be little white or gray lines on the court. He couldn't paint over them, he couldn't make it look right. And he couldn't guarantee the work because as soon as the weather changes and the kind of, our blacktop starts to expand and contract, that whatever he does is gonna pull loose. His recommendation is that we wait, or get in line, with him or whoever the successful quote comes from for sometime starting in May.
Did you say the other 2 quotes did not come in?
No, the other 2 quotes did not get here.
Okay, they were requested.
They were.
When were they requested?
I'm not sure when the process started, but I do know that Ron had talked to them, that Megan had followed up with them.
Do we know who
multiple times
the
today.
companies are?
We do, and I do not have their names with me. This gentleman is the only one who quoted last year. He seems to be very knowledgeable. Looked him up on the internet to make sure his company was viable.
Are you recommending we move forward so we can get in line to get this repaired? Because I think it needs to be done ASAP.
If we could, because we're waiting on other quotations, I think it might be prudent to approve an up to amount. I would
Rather that since we're expecting another.
so I can get in line. I'm sure, I'm confident the other 2 will get back to us within the week. And, so if we could, his quotation right now is $43,980. If just to be safe, if you could approve up to $45,000 for me to get us in line to get this done this year. I think that would be a prudent way to get in line because apparently these people do book quickly.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make that a motion and we're gonna move forward. We have approved the amount to fix the tennis courts up to 45,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
Okay. Mr. Boring,
Yes.
Mr. Bland,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
All right, the land use plan proposed amendment 7509 Bridgetown Road, preliminary.
So you were me, it doesn't matter. So we met with Steve Johns from the Regional Planning Commission and Chris Shaker. And we are working on basically updating our 5-year land use plan. So that's been a little out of date. We want to update that here in the very near future. As we were already meeting and discussing that, it came to our attention that there is a individual that has purchased. I think that I don't know if they have an option to buy or if they've actually taken possession and purchased it.
Purchased the property, but I have not checked. to see if it's-
But essentially, we had, the land use had met and looked at this a couple of times. When Chris Patchy purchased it previously, was looking at a proposal that came front of the land use. Now, this new buyer came up and lives in our community, wants to do work in our community, has done work in Delhi and others. Is specifically, as you can see with some of these pictures, looking at some nice condos, condominiums. And I think that would be a good use of that space. Brett and I have talked about it several times. And so we're not asking the board to do anything today. It's simply basically to get this on your radar, because when you're dealing with the regional planning commission and all that, things don't happen overnight. And we're not going to be able to revamp the whole land use plan in the short time that he would need to get some clarity in whether he can move forward with this or not. So Steve Johns brought to us an option and said, you may want to consider, and seemed like they were supportive and thought this was a good approach, to have our board put in an application to amend the land use for that specific property. And the county would still have to approve it. But so that's where it's a 2 or 3 month process, even after we do something. So the plan is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of that, because, but that we would bring this in front of our board the next meeting on March the 20th, I believe, is the date. And that we can, but in the meantime, you can digest it. You can follow up with questions with Jim or I or whoever and clarify, but wanted to at least just inform everyone so that we're not bringing this up for the first time on the 20th, and you want to think, what is all of this. So, yeah, that was the purpose of, I asked him to put it on the agenda so that we can at least get it on everyone's radar. And then to know that we are again continuing to work on the overall land use plan in the future.
The overall, do you want to talk about that to our
I'm just-
Township Association, what they recommended for us? Move forward on this land use and put it on the record.
That would probably be a good time to bring that up. So the large township meeting at the OTA, there right now is a bill floating at the Senate level to take township zoning away from townships and make it a state-run program administered by your county, which seems to me to have added layers of unnecessary bureaucracy to the zoning process. And that was an editorial, not the Township Association's formal thing. So, but anyway, their recommendation is that we update our land use plan as soon as possible, because if the state would hijack, in my term, if the state would hijack our local control over that the only defense we would have should they want to do something that we would not approve would be our land use plan. So their recommendation is that we do this sooner than later. I communicated that to Mr. Robertson, which is why I facilitated the meeting with Steve Johns. He's aware of that legislation, and we want to move forward with getting our land use committee together and getting this done, having on it as soon as possible. However, this particular piece was previously designated for multifamily. When the current owner came to you with their proposal, you changed it to multi-use. He's just requesting that we take it back to the previous land use, because this multi-use proposal didn't become viable. But there's a lot to think about with this. And I didn't want to just spring it on you 2 weeks or a week before the next meeting. So that's why we want to provide this to you. Please call me with questions as we move forward.
Okay, sounds good.
And there will be a voluntary proposal to contract with regional planning and all that. So, but they essentially guide the communities through that revamping and the 5-year plan. So he gave us an estimate, and again, that's what's coming in the future.
You'll have that well before the next meeting, but it's the same safety contract that you signed 5 years ago, 7 years ago.
All right, we'll move on. Public comments. Mr. Moreline, do you have anything? Mr. Burkholz? All right, comments from the board, Mr. Robertson?
I know, again, this evening at 6 o'clock, we do have an investors meeting, all are welcome, and, we've got a great agenda, list of speakers for that, so I hope that we can continue to improve communication and transparency. Newsletters are out, those, some folks got them yesterday, some today, but, if you didn't receive a newsletter, they are at the senior center and the administration office and, back with rentals. So if anyone didn't receive one for some reason, please just give us a call and we'll get one to you or stop up and see it. But, no, otherwise we've got a lot of events coming up and those are spelled out clearly in here with Easter extravaganza and, you know, again, movie night and summer concerts, all of that is set and clearly spelled out in the newsletter, as well as a pretty thorough explanation on Rumpke Levy on front and center on page 1. So I would just encourage our voters, March 19th, which will be before our next meeting. So, you know, is the primary election and we're not allowed to promote or one way or the other, but we are certainly encouraging our voters to be informed and get out and vote.
All right, Mr. Moreline? No. Ms. Sargent?
I'm sorry, I can't be at the meeting tonight. No, we're just. Late, so Dan's picking me up at 6, so I apologize.
Have a good talk with all the Reds.
Oh, I will. It's
We're
moderate.
expecting a lot this season.
That's what I'm hoping. It's supposed to be 80 degrees, so I'm sorry, guys.
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, I know.
Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know.
Mr. Brady, you have anything closing?
No, nothing more. Thank you.
And I have nothing, the motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Mr. Ballroom,
Yes.
Mr. Blayton,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
And if you guys need me, it's okay. I'll have my computers. I'm still going to work. Take care of you guys.
Yeah, my wife,